Assassin's Creed Valhalla is a tremendous commercial success, outselling its predecessor, Odyssey, by over 50% in the first 4 months, according to industry website Superdata. It's fair to say, when its run is finally done, this could be the most successful, financially, Assassin's Creed of all time. I've spent over 100 hours storming the shores of England as Ivor the Viking, and I've loved a lot of my time looting and pillaging, but I still don't feel like I've beat the game, much less finish all the content it has available, and this has largely left me feeling unfulfilled. I've pacified England, laid waste to the Order, grown my settlement to rank 6, found the locations of all the hidden ones. I've even walked on Asgard. And while parts of Valhalla are an excellent game, all these disparate storylines and game systems that are cobbled together make for an overall broken narrative that lacks any true cohesion, and because of this disjointedness, winds up detracting from the whole. I was able to tie up all of territorial England's arc before I wiped out the Order, and that effectively culminated at the strategy table with, well, a message that informed me that there was more to see and do. Go check it out. At this point, Sigurd was back at my side, even if he was a shell of his former self. And that betrayal they referenced at the beginning of the game, I never really felt it. I had learned a bit about the Animus, and I did have a confrontation with Odin, but I didn't realize his arc was over, but apparently it was. From that point, I assumed that I just had to kill the Order, and then I'd end up with a satisfactory ending. What was once a central focus of the series, the Order, feels shoehorned in at best. I had only killed about half the Order members before I knew who their leader was. Unfortunately, I couldn't do anything about it. And while that's not really anything new for the series, it felt rather pronounced in this case. This forced me to kill the remaining members and hunt down the last Zealots. Zealots were an inferior version of Phylakes from the Origins and mercenaries from Odyssey. Those enemies inspired fear. They always showed up at the most inopportune moment. While I was clearing out forts, they'd force me to run or reassess my assault. They were a severe thorn in my side, and the challenge they provided was welcome. The Zealots were tame in comparison. I never ran into one out in the world on accident. The majority of them I hunted down at the end and killed once I had completed the story. They were uninteresting, they were never scary, they provided no tension, and were entirely ineffective at making themselves anything other than a speed bump in my gameplay. They were utterly superfluous. Then, when I was able to confront them, the resolution was odd to say the least, and I was left feeling, is that it? Is the game over? I didn't get a credit roll? No big climactic event? I was climbing to a peak, and once I got there, all I could think of was, this is it? I couldn't believe it. I was in shock. So I went back to my camp and worked on finishing all the rest of the quests. I had a quest from the Seer that at first I just assumed was a side quest, but now I was convinced that maybe I had to complete it as well. I also had the Hidden Ones quest line open. Maybe that needed completing too. When I collected the materials for the Seer and began the Asgard storyline, it felt to me at this point like DLC, when in fact it was an excellent allegory for what was going on in Ivor's life that would have enriched my experience had I played it in parallel with Ivor pacifying England. However, the game never really nudged me to go back and participate in those two quest lines at the same time. Had it been more intertwined, it would have been much more impactful. Once I completed the troubles in Asgard, I felt that the story arc had reached a meaningful conclusion. However, that wasn't the main focus of the game. Upon entering Asgard for the first time, I finally did become male Ivor, which I thought was pretty weird. I'd spent the first 90 hours of the game so far as female Ivor. I did choose to let the game select my gender for me automatically, and apparently playing the game as a mortal is reserved for female Ivor. But if you want to be a god, well, to be Odin, you need to be a dude. But I can't stress enough just how good the Jotunheim region is. With the magic and shifting environments, this is by far the most engaging and fantastical content in the game. Mythological fantasy buffs are gonna love it, and I almost missed it. Finally, I made my way to uncover the remaining 3 Hidden Ones locations. There was a lot of lore in this missions as you uncovered the missives, and it was nice to hear Bayek's voice again, considering he's my all-time favorite Assassin's Creed character. But once again, when I completed this quest, it was just done. Sigurd's Arc, Asgard, Order Arc, Conqueror of England Arc. There were a lot of arcs, but none of them really felt like they received a proper ending. Like you beat this game. Now have fun running around England and reaping your rewards, and discovering the secrets you have yet to uncover. I also really don't like the fact they nerfed the bird. He used to be majestic and grand. A flying eagle that was every bit a warrior as your character was. It could fly down and mercilessly help you attack your prey. Now it's just a flying periscope. They did you wrong, Crow. But it's not all doom and gloom. The moment-to-moment gameplay is tremendously fun. Combat is as visceral as ever. Ivor has enough fatalities and brutalities to make a Mortal Kombat fighter blush. The new point of interest location system on the map worked out really well for me. You could always look out into the horizon and see that there was plenty left to do. Valhalla is also a great Tomb Raider hunting down Britain artifacts. You'll know them on the map because their markers look like tombstones. But the puzzles these contain are fun and engaging and different than most of the puzzles you'll find in villages or outposts. The world that was built for AC Valhalla is beautiful too, with little secrets sprinkled everywhere to find. On top of one hill, I ran into a town that had fallen prey to a cult, and there were Burning Man symbols everywhere, littered with corpses and bad juju symbols. There is a huge amount of content in this game, and it is wonderful. You without a doubt get your money's worth. This isn't a case of the developer being lazy. This is not an inconsequential amount of content Ubisoft has delivered. This is thousands of people hours of work we're talking about. They did not take the easy way out. They've just over-encumbered themselves by trying to consistently outdo themselves. I'd like for the next game in the franchise to take a step back and place the Order back as the primary focus of the story. I think it's great Ubisoft has put less and less emphasis on the modern day storyline tied to the Animus, because frankly, at this point, I don't think 99% of the people even care. I know I don't. While Assassin's Creed Origins was not the first game in the series, it was in effect a soft reboot for the franchise and a fresh place for new players to jump in as the game switched focus from adventure to full-fledged open-world RPG. Over the next 2 games, the developers began to weave a story of benevolent assassins pushing back against the Order, but they still pulled in context from the current time via the Animus. The most recent edition, the Animus, could have just been left out. It's another arc that just abruptly ends. I keep expecting to see my modern day player character, but she hasn't made an appearance in a long time. Keep the combat, keep the Order, tighten up the story, and you'll have a better game. I'm Robert, thanks for watching, I'll see you next time.